Today's guest is Bailey Evans. Bailey is a business owner and a yoga teacher here in Bozeman. In this episode, Bailey tells us what it was like growing up in Georgia, some injuries that she went through in high school, how that ultimately led to a journey of healing, and then led to a yoga business that she now owns and operates here in Bozeman. She shares her gratitude for growing up with a good family and the importance of the values that were instilled upon her that still have a positive effect. Overall, this was a great episode, and we really enjoyed our time with Bailey. Enjoy. Okay, let's start at the top.
Let's do it.
Where are you from, Bailey?
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Were you raised there?
Born and raised, yeah.
Where in Atlanta?
Sandy Springs.
Sandy Springs. I don't know where that's at. Can you lay out like Atlanta for us geographically real quick?
Okay.
We were talking about Atlanta with my brother.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Do you know where Buckhead is? That's like the place people know. Okay, what does it matter? I'm from like actual Atlanta. I'm not from like Midtown where it's like sketchy, but I'm from like the suburban area directly adjacent to downtown Atlanta.
What was the neighborhood like?
It was lovely.
Yeah.
I lived at the bottom of a steep hill in a cul-de-sac. And there were a bunch of kids my age in the neighborhood, so it was like very fun. It was like a pretty like idyllic setup, whereas like you come home when the street light comes on, or like we're in somebody's pool, or like playing baseball in the cul-de-sac, or raiding the candy drawer.
Yeah. Like middle class neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Safe neighborhood.
Yeah. My brother lived in Atlanta for like a year, and so we were chatting about it the other night, and he was just talking about coming from. I grew up in the Los Angeles area, so coming from the Los Angeles area, he was like, "Dude, when I moved to Atlanta, like, he's like, shit was segregated, right? It was like, he was like, it was wild. He was like, yeah, there's segregation in Los Angeles, but not like Atlanta. So he had never lived in the South up to that point. I don't even know if he'd ever really been to the South at that point. So
it's intense.
It was shocking to him.
There's a lot of reasons I'm grateful I live here, but I would not go back in that kind of like segregation and the cultural feeling there. And maybe it's different in other places in the South. I'm only long-term experiences in Atlanta, but I have no interest.
No interest, and that is like one of the factors.
Yeah, I mean, also the humidity is like a very large factor.
Yeah,
maybe the biggest one, the traffic.
Sure.
But the value system that is generally found in the South is not something that I'm super interested in.
Got it. So I said to Cole, Kyle's brother, I have family in Knoxville, and I felt that same vibe when I went there.
Right.
And I'm like, this is, I don't know, it's just a feeling. Like you can feel it in the air.
Yeah, it's like an angry underbelly kind of. Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's intense.
So so how does it compare to the north? I guess we'll say in Montana.
This is the north.
Yeah, northwest. But technically not the northwest, really.
Yeah,
not really. Yeah.
Exactly
I would call it the neutral zone.
You cannot call it the Midwest.
It's definitely not the Midwest.
And it's technically not the Northwest.
You guys know about I'll come up with it. There's a show. It references the neutral zone on a map.
And are we in it?
We're in it.
We're Switzerland of the United States.
Yeah. Well, there's like, so what the hell is the show? I'll come up with it. Okay. It's on Netflix. It's a really good show. It lasted a long time. It's about if like Germany and Japan had won World War II.
Oh boy.
Then the United States would be split in two. And so like the whole East Coast would be part of Germany. The whole West Coast would be part of Japan. And then in the middle was like Montana, Wyoming, Colorado. And they called it the neutral zone. And it was like no man's land. It was like lawless. It's kind of like Wild Wild West.
Sounds like that still checks out.
Yeah. And so I was like, cool. That's like Montana. Like that's the neutral zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I like about Montana.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you have one sister. Do you have other siblings?
My younger cousin moved in with us when I was 15 and she was 14-ish.
Okay. So sort of.
Yeah. She feels like a little sister, but she's back in Georgia and my older sister's here.
Okay. So what was life growing up in Georgia like?
In Georgia?
I almost forgot. Where did you just say she's from?
Has the retention rate of a fruit fly. That's great. I have really good parents and a really good family. So I feel like regardless of geography, the family unit has more to do with your upbringing than where you are necessarily.
I'd agree. Like 100%.
Although you said, how is it growing up in Georgia? And I feel like the caveat needs to be like, how is it growing up in the Evans household? in the Evans household, it was really lovely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I should
It's
phrase that
no,
a
it's
little
fine.
bit different.
I just wanted to make sure I was answering the correct question. Growing up in Georgia was fine. Like I said, the value system is weird. Like as a woman in Georgia, or like young girl, you're supposed to be like pretty and skinny and a bit
I actually like this
submissive.
value system.
Men usually do. It works really fucking well for you guys.
We should go to Atlanta.
You should. The women there need husbands. I shouldn't have said that. That was a horrible thing to say. We were raised not by my family, but like by this. My family was very strict on like, you girls will be independent. You know, you'll make your own decisions. I have really good parents, like I said. But society at large was like, you will be defined by your husband's career and who you are in relation to this man versus like who you are as an individual, which is part of why I like Montana so much. Is like, to me,
it's the opposite.
It is kind of like, I know way more.
You will fend for yourself and have to. Yeah.
I like that. There's a certain level of women are more capable here, or they're allowed to be more capable. They're encouraged to be more capable. They're taught to be more capable. And I think that's pretty rad.
Where are your parents from?
My mom is from Atlanta and my dad is from outside the DC area.
Okay, so he didn't quite come from that.
He definitely did not.
But,
Sometimes Dad tries to say he's not a Yankee, but definitely.
Okay.
That's interesting. Going back to my brother, when he moved to Atlanta, he moved there like basically like a year after college. And he's like, everybody's married.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I'm 23. And he's like, all the women are taken.
Yes.
And he's like, this is wild.
I mean, my high school boyfriend, his plan for us is that we would go to college and our sophomore year, we would get engaged and I could drop out. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, it's like a thing for like, it's been what, 15 years now. So, or maybe not quite that long. It's been about 15 years. So like, I don't know what it's like in Atlanta now or the South now, but, it was like women would get engaged and men, right? They would get engaged like their senior year of college.
Totally standard.
And then graduate from college and get married the next year or whatever.
And then she's pregnant the following.
Yeah. So I could see why that, like, I guess if it works for people, it works for people, but I could see why it's like, there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah. It seems like it works. So I think that that's wonderful. I'm someone who, if you're happy with whatever it is that you're doing and it's not harming someone else, I really don't care. It just was not going to work for me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what my brother told me. I don't know if you remember him saying this because he said it on his podcast. His best friend from college, he went to college in South Carolina. She's from Georgia. And she told him, oh, everyone in the South, they come off really nice, but it's a fake nice. It's very inauthentic. And I didn't know she's obviously generalizing a lot, but it always kind of stuck with me. So I wondered, it's always yes sir, yes ma'am. And I'm always thinking, are these people full of shit and very insincere when they're saying this?
It's interesting you say that. I don't remember that your brother said that, but I can go back and listen
to it. It's on the podcast, bro.
I have some really good friends that just moved from San Diego to Nashville. And I'm not going to, they're still kind of evaluating it. They've been there for 18 months or so. And they've made a few similar comments. They're like, look, like we met these people. They thought they were super nice. We kind of started hanging out with them. And now they're like, I don't know. Like there's almost like I'm going to be nice to you if you do this thing for me. And they were like, wait, what? So it was interesting. They're kind of learning the whole culture.
It almost seems like Nashville's a whole other animal in itself too.
Well, Nashville and Austin are like almost not the South, because in the South or within the South, those are two really liberal places. And so it's kind of a weird mix.
Sure.
Like old school Southern values and then the hipsters that moved in. So I can't speak to that necessarily.
Yeah.
Cameron, the little sister cousin, lived in Nashville for a while. And she's like very Southern though. So she loved it. And it has great food, great music. It's a really fun town. I don't know enough about it. But there is a lot of like, we'll be polite to your face. We'll stab you in the back.
That was the impression I got.
Yeah. Yeah. Where I'm getting married next month and my childhood best friend, Sean, and his wife are coming to the wedding. So I've known him since third grade. And he was like, are any other people from high school coming? And it was so hard for me to be like, no, Sean, I grew up and I moved away. No one else is coming.
So you don't have like a couple other folks. You just don't talk to them anymore.
I'm friendly with a couple of the girls. I had really good girlfriends in middle school, high school. Like grew up with them, and a couple of them are like super badass girls. Like one of them is a makeup artist in LA. She's like Reese Witherspoon's personal makeup artist. Like she's super cool. But no, most of them did exactly that. They went to college. They found the guy. They got married. I stopped having anything in common with them. Like I don't begrudge them at all. I just didn't. I had no point of connection as soon as we turned like 21, 22.
Yeah, that makes sense. Your just lives were so different that you didn't stay in contact.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Montana. They all went to UGA. They basically were still within our high school friend group. And I like moved as far away as humanly possible by myself and did not know anyone.
Yeah.
So just, yeah. Wonderful people. Just didn't have anything left.
Okay. Yeah, so let's go back to...
I think we cut you off. What was it like growing up in Georgia, in the Evan household?
Evan's household, it was lovely and fun and silly. Yeah, it was. I got pretty lucky.
So what was it like?
I don't know. How does one describe it?
Well, so like, what were your interests? What were your interests when you were, I don't know, a little girl, like 7, 8, 10, 12?
Horses, rock climbing, and gymnastics.
Okay.
I feel like those are like pretty standard little girl things. We grew up with horses and like dogs, all the animals and everything. And then I loved doing gymnastics, and I would go rock climb with my dad on Sundays. Just so precious.
Cool.
Western or English?
Both. So English first because my older sister did it and I wanted to be like her. And then Western second because I wanted to go with my dad. And I didn't really like horse showing. And so I got into Western riding. And then recently got back into it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Just got some huge war horses.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What was your sport of choice in high school?
Track.
What events did
run fast?
You run?
The 4x1, the 4x4, the 300 hurdles, the 100 hurdles, and the 100 sprint, and the triple jump.
Okay, you did a lot of events. What was your favorite?
Speedy. The 4x4, so the 4x400. When it was a specific team, that one was my favorite. When the two girls that were on my
Which
team,
is a relay, right?
It's
So
a relay,
you run 100.
You run 400.
Okay, so you run a whole lap.
Yeah. You run one whole lap.
Yep.
And I was third, which is cleanup crew. And then the fourth person is the fastest. So the girl who started and then the girl who was last, once they graduated, I didn't like it as much because it was such a strong team. I really liked it. But when they graduated and we had younger girls, I didn't like it anymore. I also really liked swimming, which I think annoyingly says a lot about me. I liked team sports that were individualistic.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe.
Well, no, I mean like, yeah, I think that's cool because I think people who only play team sports miss out on some individual things. And so you kind of got a blend of both.
Totally.
Which I think is cool.
I had to function within a team, but at the end of the day, my success or failure rested on me, which is how I like it.
Yeah. You're like, well, I'm either good at this or I'm not, or whatever.
Right. And I have no problem being like, wow, that really was not for me. Like, y'all should watch me play basketball if you want to feel a lot of joy and feel horrified at hands and feet and things not going where they should go.
Yeah. Okay. So the 4x100 was your favorite. That's a fun, I've only done it a couple of times, but it was fun when I did it.
Yeah. It's like just long enough to be really punishing, but not so long that you have to go into like the different mental space of like settling in for misery.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's super exciting because the races are super close. So that's cool.
Yeah. It was sweet.
Yeah.
And then I blew out my knee and had back surgery and then I quit running for a while.
What'd you do to your knee? In which order do these injuries take place?
Okay. So the first time I tore my knee, I tore my patellar tendon. It's the thing that holds your kneecap on. And one or both of my menisci.
You did that sprinting or what?
Yeah. So I came down from a hurdle. My toe spike caught. My heel came around and it pulled my kneecap off with it. And then explosion. Yes, super cool. So they put that back together, rehabbed it, did the things. And then my senior year, I had to have a full thoracic spinal fusion. And then I had to have another knee surgery the following year.
Okay. So let's back up there because that would destroy me. If I said
which one?
Both. I'm not even talking about like the physical part. So you're how old at this point?
I'm 35.
No.
Oh.
Damn, girl, you were fucking old in high school. But you look good now, though.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
I'm in a skincare routine.
So you were like 16, 17?
Yeah. First knee surgery, I think it was 16.
Okay.
I definitely was because I couldn't drive.
Okay. So you're 16. You have the knee injury first.
Yep.
Okay. So
I'm
then,
16. I think I'm going to college based on getting a running scholarship. I was like, I don't need to do anything in school. I'm
Yeah.
a meathead. Somebody's going to pay me to go to college. Blew out my knee.
okay. So
There went that bright plan.
yeah.
I think it's the first time I've ever heard a female describe themselves as a meathead.
People say that to me because apparently there's like a negative connotation.
Yeah.
I feel no negative connotation about it.
Good for you.
Apparently there's a negative connotation to the word meathead.
What's wrong with that? It's like
I don't know, like where have you been living?
Every time I say it, I see the
Under
look
a
on the
rock?
person's face that I'm saying it to. And it
Seems
tells
like
me
a
all I
personal
need to know.
Right.
Seems like a national
Self-described meathead.
Is that going to be my byline?
Yeah.
personal-
Okay, so you're 16, you blow your knee
I
out.
want you to ask me about being a meat.
I'm not. So
I'm
you
16, I blow my knee out.
blow your knee out. How long did it take you to recover from that?
8-9 months.
Okay, so 8 or 9 months of like
Rehab.
a lot of rehab,
Mhm.
getting back into it. Then when does the back problem start happening?
So the back problem was already happening. It just wasn't as severe as we thought. And then when I was 17, so a year later, we did like the normal checkup. I had scoliosis, so my spine curved, and they did the normal checkup, and they're like, "That's pretty severe. Let's check it again in 6 months and see where we are." And then at that next 6 months, I think it was like 20 degrees past when they would normally recommend surgery. So it had progressed so badly because of running, they think, because of that consistent compression on my spine. And I'm doing like 2-a-day sprinting. That's a lot of compression for your spine to be taking when it's still developing.
Mm-hmm.
With truthfully, with what I know now about the body, with not enough core and like paraspinal strength to support an already weakened spine, like of course that's where we ended up. So at that checkup, they were like, "You need to have surgery kind of immediately."
Yeah. So what I'm trying to figure out is like, I guess the timing is irrelevant, but your last so sophomore, junior year, like you are
Done at junior year. I'm out.
Okay. So you went from like, I'm an athlete to I'm sitting on the bench, right? Like,
oh shit, I should maybe start studying.
yeah. So I would
What that
imagine
trajectory was.
like as a I don't know, as an adolescent, like that would have like made my brain explode.
A little. Yeah.
Because you're just like, you have these high aspirations, you're ambitious, like you're, from an athletic standpoint. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well now what?
Totally.
Oh, okay. So I guess I want to make sure I understand, like, what about your senior year? What did that look like from an athletic standpoint?
Nothing. I had my back surgeries Christmas of my senior year. So I spent second semester senior year. I spent 7 days in the hospital, almost 3 months in bed. And then like in bed, I mean, like I could get out, but it's not like I could do like anything. I mean, I was still having to like have help walking places. And then second semester senior year, I literally was in class on drugs. It wasn't a bummer.
How were you dealing with this, like, emotionally? Meaning, like, were you like lashing out because you're like, I can't do the shit I want to do?
That would require me to have been able to name an emotion. So I was fine.
Okay.
I didn't acquire that skill until I was much older.
Okay. But you weren't just like
a meathead.
I guess what I'm getting at is like, you weren't just like fucking angry at the world that like you couldn't do the things you wanted to do.
What a good question. Maybe that's a better question for my parents. I don't remember being angry. I remember just being like, this is pretty terrible. I don't see another option though. I think I had a harder time with I thought my life was going to go this one direction and now we're going to have a hard left. But I'm pretty adaptable. And so I just fully shifted gears.
Okay.
And was like, cool, I'm not going to run track in college and I'm going to go to school in Montana. Montana was never the plan for me. I was going to go with whomever paid me to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no qualms in like where that was going to be or any ideas. And so going to Montana, the reason I ended up in Montana is because Cameron had moved in with us and Cameron wanted to go to school in Montana. Mm-hmm. We went to the University of Montana on a college tour, in my memory, for Cameron. Mm-hmm. And Cameron was like, this is where I want to go. And to be fair, I stepped on the University of Montana campus. I was like, this is amazing. This is so beautiful. But I followed Cameron to college.
Okay.
Because we were the same academic year. She's a year younger than I am, but we're the same academic year.
Okay.
So I know some girls follow their boyfriends to college. I followed Cameron instead.
All right.
She's pretty awesome. You would have followed her too.
Okay.
Can I ask you one question about your spinal injury?
You can ask me.
So is this curve, is it left to right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have the x-rays you can see, but like literally my spine made an S.
So if you're standing behind someone, like it's going left to right, to their like left to right hip.
Did you bring the x-rays?
Well, I just have photos of them. They're on my phone.
Oh, I'm like,
Yeah, I brought them because that's something that
I-
regularly gets brought on. Oh, they're just on my phone. But you can see in the X-ray my rib cage on the right, all my ribs are like 2-3 inches apart from each other, and on the left they were all almost touching. So actually the most painful part after back surgery wasn't my back, it was the months that it took for my ribs to go back to whatever their natural place should be. Like it felt like my ribs were broken every single day for like 6 months. Yeah, it was super cool.
Okay, so you followed Cameron
Followed Cameron.
just because that felt good. Like it just felt good. I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's one of my favorite people. I think as an adult now, looking back, I can see that Cameron, you know, I don't want to. It's not my story, but like she didn't end up with us because everything was like going great, you know. And I think a certain part of me didn't want to let her be out in the world by herself.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that like Cameron wasn't capable of it. It was none of that. It was just like,
Was it you problem?
it was definitely a me problem that I was like, this like perfect little creature can't go out by herself, and I want to be there with her the whole time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And it was,
and you like the school.
yeah, I'm so glad I went to the University of Montana. I tried to transfer at Christmas of my freshman year because it was so different. Like one of the things that was such a good juxtaposition from the South to moving to Montana is I moved to Montana into the dorms with like 36 polos. Because that's like what you wear in the South.
That is hilarious. Did you have like Sperry topsiders on too, or what?
Obviously.
Loser.
Like what? Obviously.
You know what they are?
And
Sperry topsiders are like boat shoes.
Yeah, they're boat
and
shoes. Like
every
standard Southern thing.
Every dude in the world, women too.
Yeah.
But like every dude in the world wears them with every single outfit, and they're like cool, but just not to wear all the time.
They're definitely not cool.
Okay, they're not cool.
She'll remind me later to look up the picture.
Okay. Yeah, you can giggle. Yeah, obviously.
Cool. So you had Sperry topsiders and fucking polos.
So many polos. I was getting dressed for my first football game, and luckily I made friends with some kids from Kalispell. So I put on a sundress and espadrilles because that's what you wear to football games in the South. Like you were like done up for football games. Hilarious. And thank God the girl that I'd made friends with had come to my dorm before we left, and she was like, "What are you wearing, you freak?" She's like, "You put on a University of Montana t-shirt and some cutoffs," and I was like, "Huh." So I almost went to my first University of Montana football game in a full-on like dress and heels. Awesome. Yeah, so I had some culture shock.
That's kind of fun though.
It was good for me.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, cool. I just went to a UT baseball game 2 weeks ago. I was a fan of the way.
Yeah.
Girls dressed? Yeah, they're shopping for husbands, Sam. Gotta be impressive.
Yeah. Well, they were.
I know it. I mean, I have a skill set that I don't know any other woman my age has. I can put my hair in hot rollers. I don't even know if y'all know what those are.
I do. I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how Southern women do. They blow it out and then they put it in the rollers, or they put their makeup on, and then their hair's perfect and voluminous and wavy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over Daisy Dukes and cowboy boots after that UT game.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's not a lot of variety.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Okay, so let's just
back up. So before you get here, what's your fondest memory as a child in Georgia?
I think maybe, I don't know if fondest is the right word. I think the most meaningful, I was thinking about this the other day actually, is that my dad, who worked so hard, and I really appreciate that. My dad every Sunday would drive an hour and a half each direction to go riding with me. So just him and I, we would drive up to the horses. He had his own horse, bought me a horse, and would go ride together. And that time with my dad, I don't think a lot of people get to have that time with their parents. And it to this day is like the most meaningful. It just was so wonderful. I think that, I know that's not just one specific memory.
Yeah.
But I think probably that.
Very cool.
Yeah. It's like cute dad stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in Montana now.
I don't know.
Well, you've said this a few times, so I want to ask. So you've said that like you grew up with like a great family. Mm-hmm. Did you always think that, or is that something you've like kind of realized as an adult?
I think I have an appreciation for it as an adult. As a kid, it was really easy to see because like I had the house where all of our friends would end up, or if somebody didn't want to go home that night, they would stay with us. My mom we always kind of make fun of her that we would say you would take in strays. But like if one of y'all was having a bad day and you wanted a home cooked meal today,
Y'all?
from the South.
I know.
But like literally you could text my mom and be like, I just miss home, and you could literally tonight go up and she will cook you dinner. And she's just like so warm and loving. So I think I knew that growing up because I was the house where everyone ended up, whether it was like a good situation or a bad situation, everyone just ended up at our house.
Cool.
And it was funny, as an adult, I've asked mom about it, and she was like, well, it was brilliant. You guys didn't tell me anything that was going on, but I always knew what was going on because you were always at home with your friends just talking. So I could always hear what was happening. Genius parent move.
Yeah, and like if she'd rather have you guys make mistakes at her house than somebody
100%.
else's.
I also had parents who were pretty chill about like, we know you're going to drink and make these decisions. That's fine. The rules are you cannot lie to us and you cannot drive. And so it was pretty, and we didn't get in trouble. Like if I would call my parents like, hey, I'm drunk at a party, or we're all drunk, none of us can come home. We never got in trouble. They would come get us. Generally, if it was dad would take us to Waffle House on the way home.
Sick.
And then take us home, and then dad would make us pancakes in the morning. So
did dad eat waffles too?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, for sure.
That's why he took you.
Yeah. Randall's a hungry muffin. He for sure took us.
Randall?
Yeah, Randall.
Randy.
No. Randall.
All right. What's mom's name?
Vicky.
Vicky and Randy.
Yeah. We call her Sticky though.
Sticky.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Shout out to Sticky.
Shout out to Sticky.
What? That's awesome. Randall. What a great name.
Yeah, exactly. You would call your dad Randall. His name was Randall.
Yeah, and dude, if you get wild, dude, Randy will fucking handle it.
Randall. Yeah, for sure.
Him too.
Yeah.
You made me think of on the farm I grew up, there was across the road, part of the farm, there was a stream, creek that ran through it.
Creek.
And we'd always have fires out there. And this is where we would party.
Yeah.
And my mother would say, like, I always knew I could see the fire. I could see everything. She's like, so I knew where you guys were.
Yeah.
And I knew you guys weren't, like, I knew you guys weren't driving
right, I can
somewhere.
see.
She's like, so it was fine.
Yeah.
She would buy us, too.
Yes.
Like, very cool. But, like, I don't know. We did some stupid shit, but it was
like wholesome stupid shit.
Though. Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. I think that's a smart way to do it because
I took it a little too far a few times.
Well, yeah. One of my favorite things about boys is that they're dumb. It's my favorite amenity that comes with boys. So you guys are idiots.
You really appreciate the good qualities in men.
Yeah.
Listen, like I love a dumb boy with a scheme. That like 50-50 if he's going to end up in the hospital or not. I am here for it. I will help you build the thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Where'd you learn that? From your dad?
Maybe. He didn't have a son, and I was supposed to be the baby, and then obviously Cameron. So I think somebody just had to learn. I mean, like I ended up in the ER a few times because I was making dumb choices to the point where my mom finally was like, you are never allowed to say that you're in charge of Bailey. Ever. Because every time you're in charge of Bailey, she ends up in the ER. Yeah. I don't know. I just I think because I'm kind of silly and I don't always have the like skill set to build the thing, to do the dumb situation. I'm more of like the brains behind the operation.
Okay.
Like, here's this really bad idea. Can we execute it?
Yeah. All right. That's fun. Yeah. That's real fun. You got a partner.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
Let me know.
There you go.
That will likely end in a lot of giggles, but maybe an ER visit. I'm very calm in a bad situation though.
Good to know.
Yeah. But I think that's smart with parents of like not creating such tight boundaries for your kids that then they get to college and they're idiots. Like I blacked out one time ever in my entire adult life because I didn't have parents who were like, you cannot do this, and made it so bad that then I got to college and flexed way too hard. And I know that that's not true for everyone, but it worked for me.
Yeah.
They'll just like ease into it.
I'll tell you a quick funny story that happened this spring. My mother was here in town. She was babysitting my niece and nephew. Mm-hmm. And I was over at my sister's place the day before, and I left a pair of sunglasses there. And I just sent her a text and said, hey, are my sunglasses there? She said, yeah, they're here. And then later that day, she calls me and she's like, hey, are you coming to get your sunglasses? I was like, I don't know. I wasn't planning on it. And she's like, oh, well, I mean, if you can, I mean, because I've already got the kids here and I don't want to go back out. Do you mind bringing me a 12-pack of beer? And I'm like, you know what? I actually do need to come get my sunglasses right now. Because I'm like, I owe her for so many times. It's just, you're coming to get your sunglasses.
But didn't she already have beer there?
I don't think so.
So she was like already crushed 6 or something.
I don't know.
She's like,
I think
need
she just.
12
I think
more.
she just had. She didn't want to put my niece and nephew
Got it.
back in the car and take them.
100%.
And she was like,
Yeah.
"But if you happen to be coming to get your sunglasses,
Yeah.
Maybe you could stop
Yes.
buying. Yeah, but I feel like moms literally do everything for you. And so
Yeah.
if your mom asks you for something as an adult, the only correct answer is okay.
yeah, I was
No problem.
literally on my way when she said,
I'm already in the
Yeah.
car. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have a good mom.
100%.
"She's alright.
She's a great mom.
She's
Yeah, don't blaspheme your mom to me.
all right." Where were we?
She's in college now.
I'm in college at
What,
35.
Um, yeah. What were you studying?
At the time, freshman year, I was like all the dumb freshman things like business communication, psychology kind of thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then?
Narrowed it down and got 2 degrees, one in psychology and one in communication.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
Specialty in neuropsychological research with a focus on traumatic brain injury.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You need to relax.
I know.
Um,
I was overcompensating for my meathead days.
I didn't even know they had like you could focus on something like that.
If you think you're going to go, I thought I was going to go to medical school. So you can have like a sub-special focus.
Okay.
That then kind of put, if you're going to go to any type of like master's or PhD program or anything like that, you can go ahead and kind of like start that track in undergrad.
Okay. Okay, so like freshman year of college, how are you feeling physically? Like, because you had a rough senior year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so like, are you back to like feeling good? What's going on freshman, sophomore year of college?
Freshman year, I wanted to try to walk on.
You drinking beer?
I wondered what it was. No, he has to go back to work. Are you drinking beer? Viewers, we don't actually know yet. It's under the table. It is not beer.
It's a LaCroix.
I wasn't going to tell what it was. So I'm going to keep guessing.
Today's podcast is brought to you by LaCroix,
My entire life is brought to you by LaCroix.
the number one flavor in spicy water.
Okay, first off, no. Coconut is not the number one flavor.
I just meant LaCroix, number one brand
Got
in
it.
spicy
Okay,
water.
that I agree with. Coconut, I do not agree with. Coconut's like what you get when you get the Costco pack and you're like bummed that it was in it.
I happen to like it, but that's all right.
So do I.
Can't win them all.
Yeah.
Continue.
Okay, so freshman year, no, I am not in a good place physically. I thought that because you're like so dumb when you're young, I thought that I would just be able to walk on to the track team. So I went to one of
After like 2.5 years of not.
after absolutely no training whatsoever.
Yeah.
I've had back surgery
Yeah, I can do it.
December of my senior year, and then this is whatever August of my freshman year. For sure, I can walk on. Oh my god, I got so smoked that first day. I was like, okay.
By seconds.
I mean, it was. I don't even remember what the run was. I just remember being on the track and be like, you were so far out of your depth. I don't think I'd even told anyone I was going to try out for it.
So, yeah, because you were afraid.
Yeah. I was afraid of the exact outcome that happened.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not conditioned for this. I don't have the same body I had. What did I think was going to happen?
Yeah. And so you went out as a, what events?
I went out to be a sprinter.
Okay. 100.
My plan had been to do the 4x1, the 4x4 and hurdles. I was really good at hurdles.
Okay.
And I was doing the hurdles when I was like, oh, you do not have the skill set anymore.
Okay.
And then that was when I started kind of slowly learning all of the things about how bodies function. Mostly,
Okay.
and I think it's the same thing as like, have you ever heard that people get into psychiatry because they want to understand their own problems?
Sure.
I think that's a little bit what happened with my trajectory towards like fixing bodies. Because I think it started with my own, like, how do you live with this much stuff wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started that process. And then I think it was freshman year that I had knee surgery. I had hand surgery and knee surgery.
In college?
Definitely had hand surgery. Yeah.
Dang, you were a mess.
I was a mess. Yeah, this thumb is like all jacked up and reconstructed.
Okay.
Whoops.
Okay, so you were just messed up for like a 5-year period.
Yeah, exactly. There was like a 3 to 5 year period where my body was just like pretty wrecked. So there wasn't a ton of recovery. It was just like just enough, and then basically destroy it. Surgery.
Okay.
Destroy it.
All right. So like,
It was a bummer.
did you go back out and start running again?
Yeah, later. I mean, now I run.
No, but I mean like on the team
Oh
or
my
like
God,
try out
no.
again. No.
No,
Okay.
I literally had that one day and was like, you can't do this anymore.
Okay.
So you just need to move on.
Okay. Got it.
No, there was no.
That was not happening.
It was not
Okay.
happening. Yeah.
Got it.
Had to let that one go. which was fine.
What had the doctor told you after your spinal surgery?
That's what's now as an adult knowing what I know about bodies. That's maybe the craziest thing ever. They told me almost nothing.
As far as what to do, like, can you run again?
Correct. They told me next to nothing. So by the time I went back for my whatever it was year checkup, flew back to Atlanta, and we were having a discussion like, how are you doing? All things. I explained kind of what my fitness was, and they're like, that's so great. People, when they get done with this, either have to be on drugs the rest of it, or they can be really fit and strong. It's like, how do you not tell someone that going into surgery? Because there's no rehab for it. You just get done, and like as soon as you're basically out of pain and off of drugs, they're like, okay, go back about your life.
Yeah. So it was like up to you to figure out everything in between.
Correct. And now I have figured it out and dialed it in really well, but that took a lot of trial and error and no guidance. And now I've heard of like a couple PTs that specialize in post-fusion patients. That maybe that was available when I was younger, but I don't remember ever being recommended that or like thinking that that was a resource.
Yeah, they probably, or like the system doctors like just fail to mention those options.
Totally.
And they're like, it's up to you to go research them and be like, I don't want
But that also seems
be wrecked.
wild.
It does. It does.
Like you put 13-inch rods and 18 screws into a child's back and you don't tell them what to do after that. Like that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But I mean, it worked out fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you put a lot of work and effort into it.
And I mean, to this day, because I now luckily now I work with some pre and post spinal fusion patients. And the thing I always explain to them is it's not self-centered, but your body now has to be your number one priority. Period. End of story for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's only really two things that make me actually in pain, and it's backpacking, like long distance backpacking, and then sitting for really long periods of time. So like long car rides, long plane rides. Those are the two things that kind of wreck me, and I have to spend like a day or so. Now at this point, it's like pretty dialed, but getting it back together. But it requires like a lot of maintenance. Like I can't be anything other than really fit and really strong.
Maybe a dumb question,
No
but
dumb questions.
you still have the rods in your back now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So my full thoracic spine is fused. Your spine is separated into 3 sections.
Not yours.
Cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. And so the middle 12 vertebrae of my back are totally fused.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Don't you think to some extent, though, everyone's body and their mental health should be their number one priority?
100%. So just for easy math, I have 5 best girlfriends. 4 of them are on antidepressants. And some of them exercise and some of them don't. And I always have that like kind of because I'm full disclosure, I've never had to take an anxiety or antidepressant, so I don't have those particular struggles. So I want to give a lot of grace. Like I've watched that save some of my friends' lives, but part of me is also like, well, have you tried like genuinely being disciplined about exercise, sleep, nutrition? Because to me, that's such an easy. I'm a shittier person on the days I don't take care of my body, and I mean that like sleep, nutrition, and exercise. I don't just mean like exercise. But no, I fully agree. I think the way you can best serve your community and the world at large, if you want to get a little esoteric about it, is you only have control over this vessel. So if you are being really good to this vessel, that is going to emanate out from you. And so why wouldn't you try to take as good care of yourself as you can?
My coach, jiu-jitsu MMA coach, said yesterday, people will do absolutely anything if they think it's going to make them feel better besides exercise and eat well.
Correct. They'll do anything that doesn't require discipline.
Yeah.
I fully agree. And it doesn't make any sense to me because people a lot of times they'll ask that. They'll be like, well, how do you do this and this? It's discipline. It's not like I want to wake up. Like there are weekdays where I have to get up at 3:30 so that I can then get the food ready for the day, have the coffee, go to exercise before my first client. Like I don't want to get up at 3:30, but it's just what the day requires. But nobody wants to do that. And nobody wants to tell you that that's what it takes. People want a quick fix and people want to give you a quick fix. Just doing the same boring but important crap.
Where did you
6
learn
days
it?
a week.
What's that?
Where did you learn
The
to take
discipline.
good care of yourself?
Just like
physically and
researching
mentally.
it as I got older. Like, I had no
Yeah.
idea until I was in my mid-20s.
That's about how
But I was always
Yeah, but you were taking good care of yourself.
no, I
before
was
that.
in good shape because I was on the farm.
Yeah.
So I wasn't eating.
Oh, you were farm boy fit.
Yeah, so I wasn't eating good,
Totally.
and I was just
You
I was
eat-
just
you would eat
You
strong.
ate
like shit?
everything white.
Yeah,
Right?
essentially,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, and you just were working so many hours. that
Yeah,
you were
I
lean.
was just always strong and in good shape, but I wasn't.
Totally.
Man, dude, I swear when I was like 26 or 27, the first time I went to bench press, and I never bench press now. I could like barely do 135.
Yeah, because you've never done that.
You just like don't. I didn't have any
Yeah,
gym.
but you
muscles
could
as-
carry some buckets.
Yeah.
Was a different muscle group.
Yeah.
But I also feel like that's got to be harder for boys who like you grow up with like a faster metabolism and you don't have to work that hard and like you look fit. And then you hit whatever age you hit, and all of a sudden it's not that easy. And like I feel like sometimes men don't have the same skill set that women have.
I didn't hit
Did you
an
say
age.
skill set or awareness?
Maybe both.
Well, I just, I honestly think, well, there's like there's totally a double standard, right, about fitness between men and women in our society. But
Wait, what do you think it is? I'm curious now.
women take way better care of themselves than dudes.
What do you think taking good care of yourself looks like for a woman? There's no wrong answer to that. I'm curious.
Oh, okay. So it's first off, like I'm doing a general like sweep of
I love
a
it.
stereotype,
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
but in generally women are more physically fit, right, than I think men are in general across society. Now so like I'm taking one thing and saying like, okay, women take better care of themselves physically than men do in society.
Yeah.
And the only reason I say that is like you can have fun people watching on the street.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's a couple, right? Like they're a couple. And you look at the woman, you're like, yeah, she's, she takes generally decent care of herself. And then there's like a dude and you're like, okay, he's like a kind of a slob.
Yeah. Look, I don't disagree with you. That's especially common in the South, where like the woman has been so disciplined and probably hasn't even thought about a carb in 15 years, and her husband's like wildly overweight.
Right.
Like, why is that fair?
It's
It's not.
It's not. It's just like,
I'm also not. I'm gonna say that. I'm sure I'm not supposed to say this. I feel feminism is great. We should have all of the rights to our own body, 100%. But men should also still open doors for us and like baby dinner and stuff. Which I know is like the thing we're not supposed to say. Like, you
It's
really
fine.
not. That's how it should be. You saw I was uncomfortable. You fixed my problem for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love that. But I agree with you with that stereotype. I don't know what that is, but I think it's like kind of a harkening back to like more traditional roles. So it's a woman's job to take care of herself and the man's job to provide.
Sure. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But I guess rounding it back out into like, I learned how to, and I think I was thinking about like, where did I actually learn it?
Mm-hmm.
And it was more of like an intuition. So like I learned it through athletics, right? Like I took good care of myself because I was always playing sports growing up, and then I just kept doing it. But if you don't play sports and it's not consistent, then you have to learn it somewhere else. And so like I just learned it because I was playing sports all the time. But you were working on the farm, so I guess you kind of learned it through your own body of like, all right, I'm working constantly. But I would imagine there's a shitload of farmers out there that like are not taking good care of themselves and not in good
They
shape.
don't eat well.
Yeah.
They don't eat well, and there's just a huge difference when you're consciously taking care of your health versus you just happen to be doing a lot of labor.
Yeah, you have a
manual
really
labor
intense
that-
job. A
Yeah.
really physically intense job. Yeah.
So you learned it through your experience of like, I have to take care
I
of
learned it through
myself.
injuries.
Yeah.
I learned it through mine was like very simple. Either I can take care of myself or I can be in pain.
Mhm.
It's like a really easy to me. There's like not a lot of middle ground.
Yeah.
I
But
think
I guess people just aren't putting the connection together.
People don't realize how uncomfortable they are.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, because I work with so many bodies on a weekly basis, and the only thing I can come up with, people don't realize that it can be better than how it currently is, because they've never been there, so they have no concept.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just get used to how you feel. That's normal.
Yeah, you just get used to like, oh, I have a hard time putting my socks on in the morning and my back hurts all day. That definitely does not need to be what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the two reasons I got into fitness and working out was one just for the vanity of wanting to look good,
100%.
and the other one was for like really for mental health reasons, because I just started to read and understand like, oh, cardio is very good for your mental health, and just taking care of yourself is very good for your
Mhm.
mental health, and then it's evolved over the years, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the single best thing you can do for your mental health. That and sleep. Like if you're like, to me, the three pillars are sleep, nutrition, and exercise. But if you're gonna, skip nutrition entirely, and if you just exercise and just sleep well, like you're already gonna be whatever percentage happier and more content as a person.
Yeah, I think sleep for me is the most important. It's
Everyone jokes that the only good boundaries I have are around bedtime.
Smart. That's like if you can have that discipline, like I think it'll evolve into all your other disciplines.
I was telling you before you got here.
7:45.
My day goes perfectly. I'm in bed at 7:45.
That's wild.
I'm like asleep by like 8:49ish. Last night was like wild.
This summer
for me.
must be tough for you.
Blackout blinds. It is not tough at all.
Okay. I was about to say, like, it's like light right now until like 8:45
Yeah,
right
and it's
now.
annoying as hell.
Yeah.
I'm like in bed reading my book, living my best life.
In the dark.
In the synthetic dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't. But I demand so much of my body in any given day that to me, like, it literally doesn't make sense to not be sleeping a ton.
Yeah. Did you always sleep a lot?
Oh my God, no, I had to sleep train myself as an adult.
Okay.
No, when I was younger, I was on Adderall and Ambien. So a pill to wake up and function and a pill to knock myself out.
Yeah.
I was also on Ambien before they realized what the doses were for women. And I was on like horse tranquilizer levels, which explains a lot. Wouldn't recommend Ambien to literally anyone ever. That is like the most dangerous drug I've ever taken. I took it for a long time. So no, I had to like fully sleep train myself as an adult.
Interesting.
It's so funny.
It's
I think
ridiculous
from
is what it is.
what I understand with like alcohol or marijuana or any of those things, like they could knock you out and you could sleep, but
they don't-
the sleep you get
It's poor
is
quality.
so terrible.
It's really poor quality.
and
Yeah,
I'm-
you
I
don't
think
go into
it's the
REM
same
sleep with Ambien.
Ambien.
100%. But I also was on so many drugs because for the people who don't know what Adderall is, it wakes you up and keeps you functioning at a really high level all day. So like I wouldn't have even known if I'd slept well or not because it actually didn't matter.
That's fun.
But you can't sleep when you're on Ambien or on Adderall. I mean,
I gotta use it.
I was like, I'm going to get some Adderall. I'll be right back.
which one, Adderall or Ambien?
You reminded me.
I don't know. That seems like a really safe idea.
Okay, so when does you're banged up, you're in college. When do you start discovering?
Taking care of myself.
Yeah.
It would have been fall of my sophomore year. So I was 1 year older than the rest of my class. So I had just turned 20. I had just turned 20. And it was just after I had turned 20 that I started like actually take care of myself. And once I stopped, that fall I was in school in Missoula and was like taking Adderall, Ambien, partying super hard, was on Dean's List, was like doing all the things right. And then I moved to Greece that spring. And
You said you were in Missoula?
I was in Missoula, yeah.
Okay.
And then I moved to Greece for spring semester and I like cold turkeyed everything.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
How did that go?
Fine. Turns out, though I definitely have like, I would argue some addictive personality things in terms of like exercise, probably. Like if you took a different lens at that. I have almost none for drugs. I mean, just stop on a dime, but I literally cold turkey, alcohol, Ambien, and Adderall at the same time. So and I'm not sober. I want to be really clear. My partner is sober. I understand like the gravity that comes with that. But I, for all intents and purposes, got sober at 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just missed something.
All you missed was that I just got sober at 20. Between 20 and 21.
I was just asking her what it looked like, essentially her journey to getting her physical health.
And step one was I stopped doing I basically, the way I describe it is probably a little flippant, but like I feel fine about my sharp edges. I don't feel the need to take anything to soften them for someone else's comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't really like the bar scene. I don't like being in big groups of people. Instead of taking something to make myself more comfortable in that situation, I just stopped being in that situation, which is a weird thing to do at 20.
Yeah. So you became sober from alcohol between 20 and 21.
Everything
Everything, as in
any drugs, any alcohol, anything. I just stopped.
Okay, got it. This is helpful because I was going to ask you about like the Ambien and the Adderall. So
Yeah.
You're taking Ambien and Adderall from what age to 21?
Well, Adderall started when I was like 12.
Okay, got it.
So I was on that all of adolescence and into adulthood. And then Ambien started. I'm not unwilling to talk about it, but I don't know how like dark you want this to go, but some gnarly shit happened during college.
Okay.
And that's when I got put on the Ambien. I couldn't sleep at night. And so that happened when March 7th, 3/7/10, so of 2010. And so between 2010 and whenever I turned 20, so like a year, 18 months later.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if getting off both of those at the same time, there was like
a
because
counteraction.
because
I mean, I didn't sleep I did not sleep for like 7 days.
When you stop the Ambien.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, like you did. I mean, like the whole, like a little bit of the shakes. I mean, it wasn't as intense as coming down off other drugs, I'm sure. I haven't had that experience. But it was not chill. It's not pleasant.
Okay. Got it. So,
And is this a conscious decision you're making because
Oh,
you
yeah.
realize you're
I'm taking a pill to wake up, a pill to go to sleep, and alcohol to manage my anxiety. Like,
and
this
you
is
realized
not
all
chill.
of those things at that age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It some of it came together. I was telling him that I was doing all this and I was on Dean's List, and I walked into a test on like let's call it a Friday morning just for ease, and I was still drunk, like flat out still drunk. And the professor realized I was still drunk, and he gave me some grace. He was like, "I can see that you're drunk. I'm going to put you in your room, in a room by yourself, because I don't want the rest of the class to see this." And he was like, "If you fail this test, like, you're going to fail the class." I was like, "I will get an A on this test,"
Mm-hmm.
and I got an A.
Okay.
And that was when I was like, whoa, we have gone too far.
Mm-hmm.
You're managing this way too well. And I also, as like insane as this is, I was probably running 100 miles a week. So I was externally the fittest person you've been around. I am running 100 miles a week. I am on Dean's List. I'm a research assistant. Like, I am above reproach. And internally, I am a dumpster fire of a wreck of a person.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of had that moment where I was like, do you want this to continue? Or would you like to be better?
Yeah.
And then, the reckoning.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool that you figured that out.
Yeah.
Because you could have continued that
Forever.
and
Until
yeah,
I
you
ruined
could
my life. Until I ruined
yeah,
my
you
life.
could have continued that and then
Yeah.
like where would that have led you? You cuz
100%.
because you're like performing at a super high level,
Mhm.
but it's kind of built on a rocky foundation.
The rockiest.
Yeah.
But no one can say anything to me. Like,
Yeah, 'cause you're
what
like-
do you want?
like-
What more do you want from me?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a
Bad situation.
bad situation to be in
It's
because
a bad situation.
yeah, you're vulnerable there.
Yeah. But that was actually why I moved, because I was telling him I moved to Greece. I took a semester instead of like doing a study abroad. I literally transferred to university in Athens, Greece. And part of why I did that is because I had recognized all these behaviors and was like, I can't be around everyone who still thinks I'm not okay. I need to go where no one knows me and then just manage this shit and come home.
Okay. So then
I could see that. That's smart.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's why drug addicts go to rehab. If you can't get out of the environment
Yeah,
that made you
yeah.
sick, you can't get better.
I almost brought this up when we were talking with Tori. It's like, and I've talked with my brother about this and so many people. When you're surrounded by your peers that know you for something,
Mhm. You're stuck in that.
It's your
thing.
identity.
you
Yeah, you're stuck.
consciously or unconsciously, you have to live up to that identity. And
Or down.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think
most of the time it's fucking down.
Most of
I think
it
it's
down.
very hard to overcome that.
Yeah.
If not impossible, like damn
I
near
mean,
impossible.
I have a lot of like compassion for 20-year-old Bailey. She was like going through some really gnarly shit. But I mean, I lit a fire on my life. Like before I moved to Greece, flat out. I wrecked relationships purposefully, not purposefully. And I just was like, well, I'm going to leave for 8 months. When I come home, things will be fine because I'll be starting over. So I fully agree. And again, I don't have that experience of like having actually gotten sober, but I cannot imagine that you go back to the life you had before if you want to stay sober.
Yeah, I
don't-
think
I
there's a
don't think
lot
you
of
can.
research around that exact thing.
Yeah. I mean, so my future husband, he is 14 years sober, which is really impressive.
How old is he?
He's 38.
Okay, so he was
Put me on the spot.
24.
Yeah, he was really young. But for years, he was from Vermont, and for years he couldn't go to Burlington because that's where he partied so hard.
Yeah.
So he like literally couldn't even go to the city so I do think that that's true.
Did
Yeah,
he grow
that
up? Did he
makes
grow
a
up
lot
in
of
a
sense.
smaller town or
I
city?
grew up in a tiny town. Yeah.
That's like, I mean, I grew up in a tiny town, so I just like,
There's not much to do.
yeah, that's
a lot of
too
trouble to be
it's too common, unfortunately.
Well, you also don't have like mental health resources. There's just a lot missing, and that's a really perfect storm, I think.
Yeah.
So you're still 100% sober.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I can't remember the last time I had a drink.
Okay.
It's probably been a year and a half or 2 years.
Okay.
But it's not like I can't. Like when we get married, I might have a margarita.
Okay.
I really like
Got
tequila,
it.
so I might have a drink, but
Mhm.
I don't enjoy being drunk. I don't enjoy being buzzed. I don't enjoy any of that. And so mine is less having to do with, yes, I was a kind of terrible person at the time, but mine has less to do with any like I'm going to wreck my life and more I just don't like how it feels.
Okay.
It just doesn't suit me.
Got it. Okay. okay, how much of that, if you were like bucketed into percentages,
I'm not great at math.
we could do
I'm
25, 25, 50 or whatever.
It's 3 buckets.
Whatever.
$4 and $1.
How much of that do you think of what was going on with you was like, part of it could have been the drugs that you were on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The medications that you were on. And part of it was like hormonal, right? Like your body's literally changing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would imagine that you were saying that like you wrecked relationships, some like on accident, unaware, some on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how much do you think of it was like, I feel like just young kids just do shit out of like, they don't know what's going on with their body.
Well, it's
and
not,
so like they get angry, they get happy, they get fucking
Yeah.
horny. It's just like they're fucking 20 years
like
old.
ping-ponging.
Yeah.
Well, so my background's in neuropsych, keep in mind. So I think that's less hormonal and more having to do with your prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain, is not developed, and that's the decision-making part of your brain. So in post-combat veterans, a lot of times they have damage to their prefrontal cortex, and they cannot make good decisions to save their lives. They're not making decisions that like reflect who they are as people, but they keep making bad decisions. Under the age of 23, you have essentially no prefrontal cortex. You have no decision-making capabilities, no long-term thought process capabilities. Not no, but not a lot. So I think it was a combination. I had also, I had gone through some like serious trauma my freshman year, and I didn't, like we joked earlier, I didn't know how to name a feeling. So you put a kid who doesn't know how to name any feelings through some serious trauma, went like fully catatonic, stopped speaking for a while. Like it was not, and so I just was trying to function, and I was doing a very poor job of it.
Okay, got it.
Basically.
Got it.
Yeah. I was doing the best I could. So I don't even know if it was a hormonal prefrontal cortex trauma. I don't want to feel the stuff I'm feeling. Everything's really loud and scary right now. I mean, the reason I was on Ambien is because I had such bad nightmares. I couldn't sleep through the night.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was that. I think for me, it was a culmination of a lot of different things. If you want to talk about hormonal stuff, I had to go through 3 rounds of IVF. So I mean, we can talk about hormonal stuff. I don't know if that's where you want to go.
No, I mean, I wasn't planning on going there.
I'd love to have 2 men.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I don't know what your experiences are. Maybe you'll know.
I mean, I know what IVF is. I'm familiar with it.
I
But,
don't.
In vitro fertilization. It's for women who are in.
Okay. Question. So do you
Thank
think
you.
that your prefrontal cortex
Great
developed earlier?
Yeah, trauma can
Okay.
develop it earlier.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I'd imagine there's a big correlation kind of between the trajectory of somebody's life, like from when they're 25 prior or post.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It certainly shifted the way that I wanted to move in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I definitely was like a liability to myself and others for about a year. And then it was like I got gifted essentially a second chance to live. I'd like to be a better person.
I could, because I can see personally in my life when this development started to occur.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's like very, very obviously. And it's funny
Totally.
because you say, and I think a lot of people say this, I mean, I'm sure we'll continually say this as we get older, but a general theme I've noticed is that I was so dumb when I was 20.
Totally.
And I think like most people,
You are. If you're doing it right, you are.
Most people that are 30 or above pretty unanimously will agree to that.
Oh
So,
my
I mean,
God, yeah.
some people are very sharp at 18 and good for them, but like most of the people that I know that I'm friends with are like, we're
Total
unanimously.
So dumb. Such a hazard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a wonder we're still alive, really.
I mean, I fully agree. Yeah, going back to if you want dumb ideas.
Okay, so you have this decision to get off all these drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Does this also correlate with a lot of physical transformations you're making as well?
Yeah. The running 100 miles a week was because I was in a bad mental place and I was like quite literally trying to outrun what I wasn't actually dealing with emotionally, which I find is very common in endurance athletes.
like you were medicating yourself with
100%.
endorphins.
Yes, 100%. I'm outrunning my
Yeah.
problems. This feels good. Everything else is numbing.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
So why would you
I'm
not
good.
run? You're like, fucking, this is the
It's
only thing that feels
only
good.
time I felt fine. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it was. This is the only time I feel remotely
Yeah.
sane. So I'm just going to keep doing
Yeah.
this.
When I'm not running, I'm going to kill everybody.
Yeah, I'm like tweaking out. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
great. It's not great. So yes, there was a pretty big physical transformation.
How do you find balance now? between not outrunning all your problems and working out too much, but giving yourself enough physical exercise to feel good.
Well, I go to therapy every Wednesday.
Okay.
That's step one. That's a good question.
I mean, that's because that's something I can tell you that I personally struggle with. So
Yeah.
I was hoping you got a really good answer.
You want a really clean answer? Okay, I'll do my best.
She went back on Ambien. She takes Adderall.
I heard that I have a 7:45 bedtime. No, I really do. Y'all are laughing. I basically had to train. I've been trying to train for our wedding. Like, we're not going to go to bed early, so I gotta.
She's got to train to stay up till midnight.
I think and I've got a pretty big. The only time that it's not productive is running, and I've got a really good gauge on that of like, you're running because you want to run or because you're working towards this thing versus you're running because you're not working out something that needs to be worked out. So I think it's an internal gauge, but for the most part, like, that doesn't happen to me with any other sport that I do. It's just running. So that's a horrible answer for you. I'm sorry. You have to
That's okay. No,
you have to be an adult and do systems checks to yourself.
Yeah. Why am I doing this? What's
the intention?
Yeah.
I mean, that should be the question of like all the things all the time. What is the intention behind what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Exercise or not exercise. Yeah.
So what does this transformation look like as far as like physically what you're doing?
Back then?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm trying to lead up to when did you get into yoga?
I was already into yoga. I got into yoga in high school. Sorry. We have to backtrack.
Early adopter.
Because of the spinal fusion.
Yeah.
I asked them, what am I supposed to do? What I said was, I'm supposed to run track in the fall. What am I supposed to do between now and then?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you need to do yoga and get a really strong core. So I started doing the 300 workouts and then went to yoga.
The 300?
Yeah, you know that movie, The 300?
Oh, sorry. I'm like,
I've got a poster of that on the wall.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I
so
have
you started doing.
Can I have a really fun
you
flex?
wanted like
Wait,
a
I want to
big
make
six
a fun
pack.
flex for a second. I do. Do you know the guy who trained all the 300 people? Do you know?
I don't.
Okay. His name's Mark Twight.
Okay.
You should look. He's a total badass. You should definitely look him up. But his wife is a friend, and she's a photographer. She's shooting our wedding. Mark Twight, the guy who built all the 300 bodies, is the second shooter.
Oh, nice.
At our wedding.
Oh, cool.
He lives in town.
That's such a funny.
Awesome.
That's
It's
such
like
a
the
funny
funniest flex.
A funny phrase. He built all the bodies.
He did. He also built all the Marvel bodies recently. All of the all of this Captain America.
There was no
guys.
CGI then.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
Movie.
He built those bodies. Yeah. He's awesome though. He's a prolific writer and a really cool dude.
That's
really
cool.
thoughtful. Yeah.
Send me a link or something if you remember.
Yeah, I will. So anyway, got into yoga. I
was also gonna say, just do yoga is such a generic, like, I feel like that's such a like broad.
Yeah.
Oh, you should get into yoga to fix your back. I feel like there could be so many different.
Unless you have a shitty teacher, and then they're gonna make it worse.
Yeah.
Which I think people don't want to acknowledge. Having a bad teacher is going to injure you. Period. Sorry.
Across the board in anything you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like having a coach that recommends the wrong thing for you.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's having teachers who don't know what their capacity is. What is your wheelhouse and what is not your wheelhouse? Now get your ego removed from the equation and say, this isn't my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the knowledge or the skill set to help you with X, Y, Z. And I think some people have a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
You just heard me at math. I'm really bad at math.
Yes. Okay. So you got to, I mean,
I was an early adopter. You're totally right.
I mean, to be
17.
17 and
having my mom
yoga.
drop me off at yoga because I was too nervous in my like little schoolgirl uniform to go into where like the dudes with beards and the linen pants were chanting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at first.
What kind of yoga was that you were doing?
At this point, I don't really remember. I remember where the studio was and they were wonderful and nice. But I was like I ran track. So I'd like show up in my like stupid little like track singlet and booty shorts. And these guys like literally were in linen pants with like the shit burning, It was a weird vibe. Safe, but weird. To be clear. But
I've gotten some of those in yoga studios before.
Yeah, with your little jujitsu shorts, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
you might see Tim
and say this to you. No disrespect.
Tim also
bitch.
Tim also wears booty shorts.
So do I.
When he does yoga.
Wonderful. I think that's wonderful.
Those are fight shorts. I'll have them.
He will fight you.
He would kill me.
I feel
in
very
3 seconds.
That if you feel good in your body and in what you're wearing, I think that's so wonderful. I don't care. Genuinely, it's the same thing as like how I feel about women who do a lot of stuff to their face. If you feel good about yourself naked, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, who am I to have any opinions on it? So yes, I called out your booty shorts, but I'm not. I wore booty shorts to the gym this morning.
There you
I'm
go.
not judging you for it. I just wanted the listener to know.
The two listeners that I grew up
listeners.
with in upstate New York.
Tim still wears booty shorts.
Still wears them.
Lexa showed some.
It's a
psycho
5.5
quad.
inch inseam, just so you know.
Okay, I tried to buy Blake 7-inch inseam shorts, and he said they were quote unquote obscene. So I respect the 5-inch shorts.
That checks out though.
Yeah, my
Okay,
brother-in-law
where
wears
were
5-inch shorts.
where
Yoga.
were
We were doing yoga.
Yeah. So okay. So let's talk about yoga for a while.
Okay.
Okay. So you're in high school, and
Yoga.
then you go to college, and you're still doing yoga.
Yeah, it was after back surgery. It was the only thing that made me feel better.
Okay.
Like
What
the other stuff was supportive, but I actually like would get done with yoga and be like, I feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What type of yoga were you doing then?
A mix. That's a nice question. A mix of like Ashtanga and general Vinyasa stuff.
Can you speak English?
Well, that's why I was like, that's a nice question. So Ashtanga. So yoga came like way old back lineage. Yoga split into two factions: Iyengar and Ashtanga.
Okay.
And then Iyengar is essentially, if you're doing yoga long enough, all roads are going to lead to that because it's a lot of props. It's a lot of how do we get the body out of pain. Ashtanga is it's like bastard, disciplined, psychotic cousin who you can do everything perfectly and you will do it perfectly or get out of the room. It is so intense. I describe it to people in terms of like how it destroys and builds your body as CrossFit. It's not as sloppy as I like CrossFit fine. I'm not speaking for the CrossFit. I like CrossFit fine, but it's the CrossFit of yoga in that it is so intense. It's so disciplined. It's the most disciplined thing I've ever been a part of, including like ultra running. You're meant to practice it 7 days a week. There's 7 different series. It took me 6 years to get out of the first series of doing it 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have never done. That's where I learned discipline, honestly, because there is a right way to do it, and either do it the right way or get out of the room.
Okay.
There's like absolutely no softness to it.
Okay. So you were doing that for a long time.
Yeah. And I think for people who do yoga, I think if they're serious about it, which I think it's great if you just want to do yoga once a month, like not my monkey's not my circus. But I think if you're serious about yoga, you should do Ashtanga long enough to understand where the practice came from and not so long that you tear all the labrums in your body. Because if you do it as prescribed, you're minimally going to tear every labrum in your joints. Before.
Is there a lot of I mean, are you going to be in very good shape? Is there a lot of physical? I mean, what are the physical and mental benefits of this?
Of Ashtanga?
Yeah.
There's a cleanliness to it that I haven't found. I have not been able to replicate in anything else other than jiu-jitsu came the closest. There's a demand, or my experience with jiu-jitsu was that there's a demand on, I have to be fully focused on everything that's happening in my body, and I have to control my breath to control everything that's happening in my brain to then also drop my heart rate so I can make better choices. That is the only thing I have found that is similar to Ashtanga. That it requires absolute 100% absorption in what is happening in the present moment.
Because anything else, you're just going to quit.
It's so hard the second you step out of the like minutia and the tiny thing that you're doing, you're going to quit.
You're going to get out of the pose.
You're going to get out of the pose and you're going to quit the practice, honestly. My teacher described it to me best years ago. She said, you are going to spend hours a day, days of the week, weeks of the year, every single day you have, and you're going to make incremental progress. And no one is going to tell you good job.
Mm-hmm.
And like that kind of thing lights me up. But that for a lot of people, it's like, well, why would I do that? I'm going to work so hard for almost no return and no one's going to recognize it. I like that, but it's not for everybody.
Sure.
What point in your life were you doing this practice?
I practiced Ashtanga seriously between 19 and probably 28, about 10 years. Yeah, it's all right.
So were you doing this about every day?
Almost every day.
Wow.
Yeah. On top of everything else. Like that was not, and that was one of the things. The teacher that I work with, he's phenomenal. But he flat out, I was in a forward fold one morning and your legs are supposed to be straight and your torso is supposed to be against your thighs. I was still running and he didn't know me at the time. And he came up to me in my forward fold, said, if you keep running, you're not gonna be able to do a forward fold right. But if running is important to you, keep doing it. But it's a bunch of nut jobs. What I have found, also similar with jiu-jitsu, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a bunch of addicts or type A people. Ashtanga is really similar. Again, I've only had the one experience with the
Yeah.
one jiu-jitsu community, so it could be different elsewhere. But to me, it draws a very similar. There's a lot of overlap between Ashtanga and jiu-jitsu. It's a lot of discipline. It's a lot of people who've already gotten to like what I would call like the dark night of the soul, and they're on the other side. This is one of the coping mechanisms.
Definitely addicts. Can you elaborate on type A? Like what? Just
Like people who are hyper disciplined, who honestly probably need less discipline, but are hyper disciplined and want things to go like a certain way and are very hardworking.
yeah, they're like almost the one that they're almost one and the same.
They
The
are
addict
one and the
and
same.
type, yeah.
I-
They're
okay.
both miserable in their fucking brain.
But they're both brilliant.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
It's
but like
addicts work so much harder than anyone else. Like
Okay.
flat out. Both while they're addicts and
Yeah.
then while they're sober.
Don't
Because
you-
while they're addicts, they're trying to get their next fix, and then once they're sober, they're having to stay sober.
Yeah.
That's so much more work.
Remember Mike said that, right? When he started working out, doing jujitsu. He's
Yeah.
like, I just got addicted to it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like I was addicted to a bunch of other stuff before.
That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's why I mean I can relate to that. 'Cause
They're very similar. I think I just had the wrong coach.
there's a lot of great coaches out there.
Yeah.
Even though your coach was saying, "Hey, look, you can do running," but
Teacher.
oh, sorry,
It's okay.
got it. Your teacher
Coach
said,
jujitsu. Teacher. Yeah.
"Okay, I'm
Yeah.
with you now." Okay, yeah, got it.
Tracking.
I'm with you now. Okay,
Okay, my teacher said what?
your teacher said like you can continue to run, but you're not gonna be able to do forward.
Yeah, but you're
probably.
gonna have to sacrifice
Yeah.
the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I continued to make that choice.
Sure, because you love both.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, so you, early adopter of yoga.
Mhm.
When does the idea to start the studio kind of come into play? How old are you? You just graduated college, or you whatever?
The first one, I don't even know if I'd call it technically starting a studio. I just had a space that was mine,
Mhm.
and it was just me. I didn't have any employees, but I did that when I was 21.
So you were
So-
practicing yourself there and doing one-on-ones or whatever.
Teaching classes, yeah.
Okay.
I got certified when I was, I guess it would have been 2021, sometime in there. I got certified to be a teacher and started teaching immediately after that.
How old are you?
21, 22.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I
21,
think 22.
22.
I think
Okay.
22.
Yeah, interesting. So you made like a
Mhm.
hard 90
What percentage?
with like everything.
What percentage of folks that get certified teach?
Not much.
Like 5, less than 5. Or
No,
less
I
than-
don't know about so this should tell you. So I do teacher trainings now. I now train other teachers, and we just graduated out of class like a couple weeks ago, and there were 18 of them. I think 4 of them want to teach. Yeah,
So 20, roughly 20%.
thanks. Which is about
And the other people just want to learn more about yoga.
yeah.
Right.
Which is, I mean, that's why I went to teacher training school. I had no interest in teaching, none whatsoever. I got thrown into the deep end by a studio owner. I was like, oh, that was actually fun. Also, I needed a summer job, and I didn't feel like going back to landscaping.
Can I ask you this before I forget? Can you explain explain us to us the name, how you came up with the name for your business?
Yes. I feel like y'all know something I don't know.
Oh, no, it's it. I'll tell you. I'll tell
Okay,
you.
okay.
I'll tell you why he's laughing. But
Okay, so the name of the studio is Ekam, which also has some debate. And it's the number 1 in the Sanskrit numerical. So if I want to be a jerk, I could say I named it the number 1 because we're going to be the best studio, which we are. But I actually named it after my favorite moment in the Ashtanga practice. So the Ashtanga primary, all of it, it's taught to a count 1 to 10. So you don't get given posture names or breath cues. You get given a number and you know where you are. You have to track it yourself. And so after the chanting, the first moment of the Ashtanga practice is Ekam inhale. And you're standing and you take your arms overhead and eye gaze follows your hands. And it's my favorite moment of the practice. It's like the kind of like whoosh, everything else gets quiet. So I named the studio that moment of practice for the days that I hate running a business to remind me of why I started it.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that one a little more.
Which part?
So that was like how that works for you, right? So like it's helpful to you, so that's why you named it that.
It's also a good name,
Okay.
I think.
But am I tracking properly?
Yeah.
Like so like it's helpful for you to remind yourself that, hey, I don't like these elements of running a business. Therefore, I name it that, which
To
reminds
remind
me,
Yeah.
keep doing this.
Yeah, you got into this with really pure intentions of like wanting to share the practice, and the minutia of running a business occasionally gets in the way of wanting to be a teacher. And so it was a reminder of like, there's a reason behind why you did this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason. Yeah.
That's wise because it's easy to lose
It's easy
sight
to
of
forget. Yeah.
why you.
Thank you. I mean, that was exactly it. As I was like, I'm about to have a ton of employees, and to some extent, when you turn the thing that was your safe place and like kind of the sacred thing to you into your business, you've ruined it to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer mine. Everything that was mine about this, which was a completely selfish and internal practice, not selfish, but internal practice, I've now essentially publicized. I need to remind myself that this was mine at one point and it was really meaningful. And that's why we're doing this, is because it can be really meaningful. Okay, what was the debate?
Go ahead.
I swear this is like I was taking one of your teachers' yoga classes, and I'm like sitting in there chilling, like probably falling asleep or something, but I'm like looking at the wall or something.
In his booty shorts.
Looking at the wall, and I see Eckham.
Yeah.
Like,
wait, was it where the sun gets on the brick wall?
Probably, I
It's
don't
like
know.
the most lovely moment. Anyway, sorry.
So I'm looking at him like, wonder what that name is. And I look at him like, oh, maybe if you spell Eckham backwards, it's make.
Make.
I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe it's just make yoga. That's probably the name. That was all I
think
thought.
that's really clever.
Yeah,
actually.
that was all I thought. I was like, oh, that's smart. Who would think of that? But,
you and your booty shorts.
I figured you thought of it. I was just looking at it.
No. I also liked the cheekiness. The number 2 in the Sanskrit numerical is Dwi, D-W-I. And I was like, it'd be really funny if I opened a second studio and named it Dwi. No one would understand that, so it was like an internal, really embarrassing joke, but
that would be like an inside spiritual joke.
Yeah, that'd be like a, if you know, you know. For sure.
Anyway, that's a very wise and cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool reason to use that name.
Nobody normally gets the real answer.
What's that?
I don't normally get the real answer. I'm like, oh, it's part of the Ashtanga practice.
Thanks for sharing the real answer.
Welcome.
Well, I think, I think there's a lot of foresight in that for a couple of reasons. One is like, I think people are afraid to ruin the thing that they love, right? Mm-hmm. By like doing it all the time.
Yep.
Right. And then it ruins them because they're now doing it all the time and can't get away from it because it's now a business that has maybe overwhelmed them. Right.
Yeah.
But you had the foresight to be like, no, this is actually going to help me kind of think about it, stay calm, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of times, I mean, I'm in this phase right now where I really like the class that you take. I really like teaching that class. It's really fun for me.
It's the only one I like.
Me too. I'm just kidding. But I really like teaching. I teach a lot of in-home privates, and I really like doing that a lot. The public classes have become a little bit draining for me. Mm-hmm. And so there are times where I have to switch out of like, it's okay to just run the business. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be the teacher that is the front of house. Like, it's okay to just be behind the scenes and run the business, which has required a lot of personal growth for me, because I would see clients in the studio and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long. And what I would hear was, you're a lazy business owner. You're not present. You're not doing all the things. And so for a while I felt like I have to be here for the optics of it, basically. In all reality, I'm more effective when I'm like doing my administrative work the way that I want to do it, which is not at the studio, because then clients are talking to me. I can't get anything done, which I love. Mm-hmm. So I think naming it that, the part that I loved was kind of to remind me of like, yeah, sometimes you just have to run a business and it's okay to not be a teacher.
Yeah.
Which I still grapple with. It just always makes me feel guilty.
Like
I want to teach.
And so you're just trying to break away from that and be like, hey, look, I can distance myself from the business and not necessarily be super intertwined from a
teaching
customers.
No. I love doing I love the running of the business, all the back of house stuff, the running of the employees, the interaction with the clients, all that. But sometimes like teaching is can be, if you're doing it right, a pretty big energetic like push out. And I just haven't had the same desire to do used to be known for having like really intense hard classes. I just don't have those in me right now.
All right.
The class that he takes that I love teaching is like, it's like active recovery and mobility. It's meant to just kind of go break your body out there, let me fix it, and then go back and break it. Mm-hmm. I'm just not in the business of working you so hard anymore.
It's chill.
It's chill. It's
chill. All right, cool.
It's me trying to be chill. I've been told by people I'm intense.
I can only lightly speak.
You got a couple intense teachers. There's a couple of them.
Yeah.
I can only lightly speak to teaching just from the mostly kids jiu-jitsu classes I teach, and sometimes adult, but it takes
a lot.
You need to be in the right place. Like, how was your day? Did you sleep enough? Did you?
Yes. And you have to shut it all out.
Yeah.
Like your bad day can't come with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to show up for everybody and kind of like disregard how you're feeling, but
Mhm.
it can be very draining.
Yeah, and I think that truthfully something weird happened is I learned how to feel my feelings more and name my feelings more. That bifurcation actually got harder for me because I used to be able to just be a blank slate all the time, like the tabula rasa of like whatever your shit is can come in the room because mine has it. And I still don't ever. I feel very strongly that it's like wildly inappropriate as a teacher when your crap comes in the room. I have a really hard bound. Not for every. I mean, like other people function differently. For me personally, that doesn't get to come in the room. But as I've gotten older, it is a little bit harder to. It's not even like to separate my stuff, but just to show up in that way. Like I have a huge business to run. I'm tired.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it also gives you, to me, it gave me or gives me an ample opportunity when if I am struggling with something in my personal life, you have this hour and a half where that can't happen for you. Like you can't give it any thought, any energy. And I have never once gone back to it and not had kind of a new outlet because I took that full hard step away from it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the pressure of needing to show up for other people gets you so out of your own head and your own bullshit.
100%.
And you're like, I'm here for them now, and you kind of you have to show up to some extent.
It's kind of magical.
Yeah, you can't sit there and
wallow,
bitch about
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's game time. It's game time.
Like, yeah.
You flip a switch and you're like,
there's 30 people
I'm going to work
here for something,
yeah.
And it's not my shit. They're not here for my stuff.
Yeah.
I think I actually was the most effective and the best teacher. I was engaged previously, and I chose to end that relationship. And I think I was the best teacher I've ever been during that massive transition of people in my life. Because it was so loud and so messy that I would step in as a teacher and just have like the only time in my day that was quiet. And it was honestly, it was kind of magical. I don't hope that for myself again, honestly, but as a teacher and for my students, it was a really good time.
It was like running 100 miles a week. Right? Like it was like, no, you felt good about it. So you're like, yeah,
it was so
focus on something.
It was so clean. Everything else out here is a dumpster fire and it's loud and it's messy and it hurts all over the place. And this is like, I can do this and I can do it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Wouldn't recommend it, but.
No, but I mean, but there's times, shit comes up in life. And so you got to find an outlet. Otherwise, I guess in my experience, like, if you don't find an outlet, it's going to find its way out. Somewhere. Right. Yeah. And so you got to like figure out where you're going to put the energy.
Totally.
So,
yeah.
One thing I know I wanted to ask you, I listened to part of the podcast you were on, but I'm not gonna lie, I was on a plane and I fell asleep.
Great.
And it was over.
I love that I lulled you into sleep. Okay, which one?
But I just specifically remember you were talking about values.
Yeah, values.
And I thought that was very cool. I thought it was very admirable.
So lovely.
So she doesn't remember what they are.
I do.
If you could elaborate on that, just on that philosophy that you have, I was intrigued. So
okay. So this is a Randall special. Actually, this is straight from my dad. My dad always, when we were growing up, was like, you have to develop a value system, and then you can only do things that are in alignment with your value system. Because as soon as you start to violate that value system, you're dead in the water. You're going to be working uphill for something you don't believe in, like regardless of whether that's personal, professional, emotional, physical, whatever it is. And so he was always really strict with us about establishing what our intrinsic value system is. And he has never been wrong that when I do stuff that I know is not going with my value system, I either fail or I hate it.
Or you feel bad.
Yeah.
Or you feel bad about it. Like, fuck, I knew that. I should have done that.
Wasn't the right answer. Yeah. Like you always know. Yeah. And so like it's different for everyone. And I don't necessarily mean it has to be religious. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I would identify myself more as spiritual. I think there's something out there. Not sure. But for me, like my value system is I want to show up as someone who positively impacts others and is like a good, or a force for good in the world. I want to be autonomous and self-aware, and I want to be able to speak to my own bullshit and keep my side of the street clean. I want to spend time with the people that I love, and really, like, the most important thing to me is prioritizing time with the people I love. And I recently have been working too much, and there has been this huge rub because I'm not doing the thing that aligns with my value system, which is being present with people I love. And so which is why I don't want to teach, is because I'm like, you're burnt out, but what you're actually burnt out on is you're not prioritizing this thing. And so I don't know exactly what you want to know about, but that's what I mean when I talk about like a value system.
No, definitely. I was just curious about your value system and where you learned it from.
Yeah, Dad.
But that's such a struggle. I think we were talking about it yesterday, but when your values are here and like financial gain is here and trying to to stay in between those two is
so hard.
Yeah.
I just spent the last year prioritizing the financial gain because we had goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited for what that's going to literally afford me to be able to do, but it came at a really high cost to me.
Mhm.
I don't feel as involved in my friends and family's lives as I
Mhm.
want to be. I don't have as much time with them as I want. And so it's exactly what you're saying. Like occasionally those are going to be on opposing sides. Yeah. And it's really hard.
And it's okay for a little bit, right? But it will catch up to you.
Well,
You know?
yeah. And
It's okay to be like, all right, I'm going to go grind
gotta
this
do
thing
this.
for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you got to come back to the other side.
Totally. I keep joking we're moving, hopefully pretty soon. And I keep joking that is going to be me entering my soft girl era. I'm done with the amount of hustle that has been going on. Not that I'm like the studio's still going to run, I'm still going to have my clients, but like I'm trying really hard to turn the volume down to then prioritize the people that I love. Because it's unacceptable to me that this is how I'm currently functioning.
I always feel a little bit better about myself when I remember my farming roots and I say there's seasons.
Yeah.
So I got to know, like,
you're in a tough season.
as long as I'm putting it at least in a year, like there needs to be seasons to that year.
Yeah.
Like there is in much smaller senses too, to the week and the month, but
Totally.
there's got to be a season where you're working your ass off.
Yeah, where
you're
you're
planning.
planting. Yeah. That's a really nice way to look
But
at
if I can keep that in mind, I'll say like, no, this is the season I need to hustle. Like
it.
I got to make hay while the sun's shining.
Yeah,
Pull up
totally.
another farm reference.
Yeah.
But
No, it's great.
all winter, like, I'm going to be glad I made that hay and I'm going to spend all the time
Totally.
with my family.
Yeah.
We'll have a lot of hay to eat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I feel like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I, just in terms of like when I'll casually talk to you,
You make hay in the summer, yeah.
No, there's a lot of reference to your family, which I liked because they're and again, not good or bad, but I think that maybe this is just a me thing and like a thing that I've been thinking about. But I think that there is or can be a lessening of the importance, and I don't mean family in terms of blood, I mean like chosen family, but I think there can be, we've moved kind of towards too individualistic of a culture, and there's less of that kind of no, these are my people. So I thought it was really nice. Like there have been multiple times where you'd be like, oh, I've got my nieces and nephews, or like, oh, I'm going to my sister's.
Oh yeah.
And I've caught that. And I think probably because that's part of my value system that you're more likely to kind of key into it when you hear that.
Yeah.
It's also been a good guide for dating. Because if your value system's aligned and then you have like different hobbies or whatever, you're fine. If your value system doesn't align, cut and run. You cannot overcome that.
I've heard this. So and that makes complete sense.
It's real. I have tested that theory 9 ways to Sunday. Your value system has to align.
Well, I'm glad that you at least noticed I would talk about seeing my nieces and nephew and sister, because really I still beat myself up and think I don't do it enough. So
I this morning I was at my sister and I go to the same gym, and she has the world's cutest baby, and she is really sweet. She's letting me borrow something from her, and she said,
"Doesn't every woman?"
No, not everyone has a cute baby. Anyway, I'll show you a picture. You can decide. But she was so cute this morning. She was like, "What do you want to come see your baby?" Because I call her my baby. And I had that moment where I was like, I can't, and now I have crushing amounts of guilt. Thank you. So I hear you.
Yeah.
I've got to imagine it's just the volume turned up if and when you're a parent. Like I feel shitty about missing time with Beep, and I'm not even her parent.
Right.
But yeah. So yes, I have caught that. You're definitely a good uncle.
Cool. Anyway, well, yeah, values. Thank you.
Values are important. Yeah. Value system is really important. And I think it's important to develop it. I have friends who I don't think they could answer that question clearly, and I could answer to you, these are my priorities, period, bar none. Sometimes there's like nuance to it, but I think that step one of being a functioning adult who's like good in the world is to figure out what your value system is. Like maybe sit down and write it.
Yeah, and I think it will evolve and change over time.
It should. Yeah.
I think people, or at least I shouldn't say people. I've I always thought your values would stay the same, and they don't.
Mm-mm.
Right? As your life seasons in your life change, they change.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what was important to me 5 years ago is not very important to me today, and what was important to me 10 years ago is not even fucking close.
It's on the list. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, your values are going to change, and I think it's kind of hard for people or it's been hard for me to kind of realize that, because I'm like, oh, like my values should stay the same.
Mm-mm.
And they don't.
Well, hopefully if you're growing and learning and expanding, they will be growing and changing and expanding with you.
Yeah.
But I do think that can be really hard to establish and then continue to move forward with them and re-identify.
Mm-hmm.
I think to go all the way full circle to what we started talking about your body and your mental health being your priority.
Yeah.
You kind of, if you still need to start there to then be able to
100%
have your values.
Well, the way it's in the yoga community a lot, instead of disease, it's dis-ease. And you have to move away from dis-ease before anything else can start. Like, what is that saying? It's like, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. Something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually like when you've actually been taking, what is it?
When you have your health, you have everything.
Yeah. But it's true. Like, until you've actually had that removed from you, like out of your control and out of your power, I don't think you recognize it. If you are in chronic pain or disease or whatever it is, you have no bandwidth for anything else. You can't even, like, your entire day is around that. And so so step one to develop your value system is like take care of the vessel, and then you can start with everything else.
It seems narcissistic, but it's really
I mean, I had to have a reckoning with my girlfriends when we were younger. We still take same girls that I'm still friends with, but we would take girls trips, and they would give me such a hard time because I would get up before they got up. I would go work out, whatever that looked like that day, and then I'd go get them baked goods and coffee and bring them back to wherever we were staying. But they were like, it's really annoying or hard or whatever it is that you get up at like 6 when we're on girls trips. So I'm like, how did that walk me through how that inconvenienced you?
I just got you coffee and baked goods. What's the problem?
That was exactly
and
it.
You
like,
just woke up.
I chose to take care of myself. You're making a different choice. I'm not upset with you. I didn't say I was sad that you didn't come running with me. I just got you baked goods.
Yeah.
STF.
Or like you stayed up until midnight and I went to sleep at 10.
100%. And that was part of it, is like there was that mismatch, but that's what I had to explain to them of like, this is my number one priority. And if I don't do this, then I'm not going to be present with you guys the rest of the day because my body feels like shit and I don't feel good. So either I can get up early and not inconvenience you at all, or I can feel like crap the rest of the day and somehow have also not inconvenienced you.
Yeah, I mean, that was something going on with them. Like something was bothering them, probably. That
100%.
Like had something. How would it have anything to do with you?
Well, as I've gotten older, because it means I'm with the wrong people, but occasionally I'm with people who are like giving me a hard time for not drinking, and every time that happens, I'm like, that is you. That is not. I am not making you uncomfortable because I don't have a drink. You're uncomfortable with whatever your habits are, and you're putting them on me. But it took a long time for me to like feel very much like in tune with myself to be like, that's not about me. Sorry, you're uncomfortable that I'm sober and you're making an ass of yourself.
I called a friend out on said that exact thing. And I said, "You want me to have a drink so you can feel comfortable, dude?"
That's exactly it.
That's a you problem.
That's exactly it. I shouldn't have to drink to make you feel comfortable.
I'm not going to
call him out on here. Too much. I drink way too much coffee and I go pee again. And I can't have this.
So I brought it for her.
So I saved mine for tomorrow.
That's smart.
Thank you. But also look at you. The gift that keeps on giving. Tomorrow morning, you'll make.
There you go.
Look at that.
So what was I just going to ask you or
Drinking,
say?
making someone uncomfortable.
Oh, no, the thing that I'll get flack for is the food. Like I'm a problem with the foods I will or won't eat. And I'll just tell people I won't come or I won't eat. And I'm like, oh my, I'm like, it's such a problem. I'm like, look,
100%.
I'm just trying to eat shitty food.
I mean, I'm going to fully out myself on here. But a little while, I'm so embarrassed that's what it is. But a little while, I kept getting sick and I couldn't figure out what it was. So we did like a bunch of allergy tests. I'm allergic to like a lot of different food, and it was wrecking my gut microbiome. So I had to get really strict about what I was and was not eating. Mm-hmm. I flat out did not tell. Like I'm not going to say what it is because like half the people in my life still don't know. I was
going to ask you what it is, then tell me after.
Like half the people in my life still don't know what it is because when I cut out one of the things I was allergic to, I got so much shit that I was like, it doesn't affect you. That is on you that you feel weird about that. Do you have like a weird, or not a weird, but do you have like a strict dietary thing?
No, I mean, it's just for like, it's not allergies. It's just.
No. I prior to that, I still ate the way I wanted to eat. I want 8 vegetables per meal or else it doesn't feel like a meal to me. Everyone thinks that's annoying.
Yeah. I just like don't really ever eat carbs. So it's like,
yeah.
I mean, like refined carbs. I'll eat vegetables.
Sweet potatoes.
Yeah. Any of that kind of stuff.
Oh, fine. You mean you eat how nature intended?
Yeah. But anyway, it can be a problem. Like it's
100%. It's because it's their crap, which is fine.
And it's hard to not like. I mean, I say it's hard to not to, but I'll feel like I'm going to insult somebody if I'm like, yeah, I don't want to eat any of the food you're preparing for me.
I have insulted people for that exact reason, and it is annoying and hard.
What are you going to do?
Let them be insulted and feel guilty about it.
Can I get any more questions? Because I unfortunately
you have to go back to work.
I got to wrap this up.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Okay, great.
We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This was awesome.
This was great.
Nice.
Thanks, Billy.
Thanks.
Thanks.
See you later.